Hello everybody, welcome to Wild Boy Movies, the place to talk movies, and we got ourselves a new update regarding the final entry of the Strangers trilogy. And I'm pretty sure it's an update that literally no one even cares about regarding how people responded to the first two movies. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is talking about this new update for The Strangers Chapter 3, as well as talking about whether or not Chapter 3 will end up doing just as bad as the previous two movies. But be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your thoughts on the Strangers Chapter 3 update, along with whether or not you're even excited for Chapter 3. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so this news just completely came out of nowhere, where it was from Lionsgate, where they put out a brand new teaser for The Strangers Chapter 3. And I'm not really gonna say much in regards to what happens in this trailer just because, well, I haven't even seen those first two movies of this trilogy, so I don't even know what even happens in those movies, so I can't really comment on that. But I was kind of confused on why they would kind of spoil that Madeline Pesh becomes one of the Stranger characters, considering she's the main character of that trilogy, unless that was something that was set up at the ending of the second movie. But as far as my thoughts on this trailer, it just really didn't do anything to get me even remotely interested to check out this movie or the other ones. But it was at the end of this teaser that we got ourselves the confirmation of the release date for Chapter 3, and Lionsgate went ahead and gave the movie an official release date of February 6, 2026. And as of me making this video, it is almost exactly 2 months away from releasing, so it kind of makes sense now that they're going ahead and starting up the marketing for Chapter 3. And this leads me to the main topic of this video that I wanted to go ahead and talk about for months now, whether or not The Strangers Chapter 3 will end up performing just as badly as the previous two films, both critically and financially. Now, if you haven't been following the movie news or even the box office numbers for these movies, then it may come to as a shock to you that the Strangers trilogy as of right now with the first two movies are just not performing all that well in terms of making money at the box office. In fact, the most latest entry in the series, The Strangers Chapter 2, ended up making the least amount of money opening weekend, not just for this trilogy, but for the entire Strangers franchise in general. And when taking a look at the box office numbers for these movies, the first one ended up making $48 million worldwide during its box office run in 2024, while the sequel only managed to make less than half of what the first movie made, with just $21 million. And those low box office numbers might be just because of how people were responding to these movies, because when taking a look at Rotten Tomatoes, Chapter 1 has a 21% critic score and a 45% audience score, whilst Chapter 2 has a 15% critic score and a 55% audience score. And it might be just because of how badly these movies were being received critically, it could have led to how bad these movies were performing at the box office. Which signals that no one or very little people had that much of an interest to check out these movies, which means it could very much hurt the box office potential for Chapter 3 when it releases in February. And this could pretty much be a consequence of having all three of these movies being filmed back to back. Because yeah, if you haven't heard, all three of these Stranger movies were filmed at the same time. And once one film wrapped, they immediately went into begin filming for the following installment. Because the studio most likely saw the success that Netflix had with the Fear Street trilogy, where all three of those movies were filmed back to back to back, and they had immense success for Netflix. And the studio might have wanted to try to replicate the success that Netflix had with their Fear Street trilogy and try to do that with the Strangers trilogy. But for the Fear Street trilogy, they started out very good and they progressively got better and better, and people quite enjoyed all three of those movies. With the Strangers trilogy, it started off pretty badly but got progressively worse as the series would continue on. And with the second movie having a half drop in terms of the total box office run in comparison to the first movie, it shows that not a lot of people have that much of an interest to go see these movies just because of how bad the first movie was. And those who did end up going to see Chapter 2 said that Chapter 2 was even worse than that first movie. It hurt a lot of people's excitement for Chapter 3 to where there's not a lot of people even looking forward to this third movie. I think the only reason that people would even be interested in going ahead and checking out this third movie is if they had only filmed the first movie and it released and people didn't like it. And the studio takes notes on what people didn't like so that they could go ahead and rewrite the script for the second movie and then film it with those changes. I mean, that's what Blumhouse did with the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, where they went ahead and took the criticisms of the first movie very seriously, and they went ahead and made the second movie with all those things that people were wanting from the first movie. And based off what I heard from content creator Evan Solo's reaction, it seemed to work out all well. But for the Strangers trilogy, they couldn't do that just because they had already filmed the movies. Now, from what I heard, after Chapter 1 release, they did go ahead and do some reshoots to fix some of the complaints that people had from the first movie, which made the production even more expensive. And I honestly think it would have been a lot cheaper if they had gone ahead and only filmed one movie and had rewrote the scripts for the other two entries based off of the criticisms that people had from the first movie. But who knows if that would have worked. Maybe if they went ahead and did that method and people still reacted the same way they did for Chapter 2, it probably would have been worked out in the long run. But hey, I still think that would have been a more cheaper option than what they ended up doing here. But with all that said, unfortunately, I do think that Chapter 3 is going to most likely flop and underperform at the box office, possibly being the lowest grossing entry of the entire trilogy and maybe even the entire franchise in general. Like I mentioned, people really did not like those last two movies, so why would they even bother going ahead and checking out this third movie when it could possibly be just as bad as those previous two movies? The only way I could see The Strangers Chapter 3 actually turning a profit for Lionsgate is if this movie ends up getting positive reviews. I mean, not just even positive reviews, just people saying that, yeah, even though the first two movies were bad, this one was way better than those previous entries and is the best of the entire Strangers trilogy. Like, I'm not fully expecting Chapter 3 to even get a fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is 60% or higher. I'm still thinking that this movie is going to get a rotten score, a pretty low score. But if critics end up saying that this is actually the best entry of the series and was a lot better than what we got with the first two entries, it could help the box office for Chapter 3 do not amazing, but probably better than what the first two entries went ahead and did. Maybe it could be an in-between of what Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 made at the box office. But it might not even matter that the movie gets slightly more positive reviews in comparison to the previous two movies. People did see those first two movies and they did not like what they saw, and that they don't care for the final installment of the trilogy, whether or not it gets positive reviews. But yeah, my final prediction, I don't think The Strangers Chapter 3 is going to be a hit at the box office. I do think that it'll unfortunately be another box office flop for the series. And it could unfortunately lead to us getting no more Stranger movies. Like, this trilogy could be the final Stranger movies that we ever get. But I want to hear from you guys. Do you guys think that The Strangers Chapter 3 will actually be a hit at the box office, or do you think it will be a flop like the other two movies? And are you even interested in this final installment? Go ahead and leave that down in the comment section, and while you're at it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video, and have a great day.